as you know, the vocal is the most complex thing on the planet frequency wise. The next
Right.
thing is probably harp or grand piano, but harmonically and tonally, every singer's different. Um, every key of the song can change it, but uh, you can have two different rappers that are different, two different singers. BTS has always been a challenge because there's 7 members, and each one of their lead vocals has to sound like $1,000,000. So I have to do that process with all 7 of them.
Wow, that's
you
probably
know,
so challenging.
yeah, and then once you get them to all sound good, not only are you doing that, you have to make them all match. So
Right.
when you hear the song down, it doesn't sound wild. Like, wow, that sounds great, but it sounds so out of pocket with this next guy singing, and that's weird transitionally. So you got to find that balance with 7 guys. But here's the thing:
Hmm.
they all probably record on the same mic, so that makes it harder. They're not all using the most optimal mic for them, and a lot of people don't do that anyways because people go with the mics that they've heard are great or what they can afford.
Right.
And if they're recording with a producer, they're only using one mic, like very few producers have a closet of mics at their home
Yeah.
studio, and then a lot of guys, even if they book a big studio, they're like, oh, do you have a C800 or, oh, do you have a 251? And they just go with that because they've heard that's great. And it is great, but is it great for them?
Right.
And I'm guilty of that too. It's like when people come here, I always choose this mic because if I'm recording them for a lead vocal, I love this mic, so I'm at least going to start with it. If it's totally wrong for them and we have the time, I might dip in the closet and grab something else. But
It's a hard
lot of
balance
people-
because you want to keep them inspired.
Yeah.
You don't want to like audition 1,000,000 mics on the same singer.
exactly, sometimes you cannot take that time, but
Yeah, I have the Slate
the
mic.
singers-
I have the Slate modeling
Right,
mic,
so-
which is helpful for that kind
that's
of
cool
stuff.
because you can try a bunch of
Yeah.
different ones after the fact. So that's
Yeah.
kind of really cool. But I think it would be great if singers took it upon themselves and
Yeah.
rappers, and some of them do, to discover over time, like, what's the best mic for me. Like Usher, I used to hear his engineer would carry around a Bronner mic, or is it Brower? No, it's Bronner. It's a real high end mic and got a road case for it, and everywhere Usher records, that's the mic. And that's what he discovered. I'm sure he's tried C800s and U47s and stuff, but that's what he likes on his voice. So he's got that consistency, and I really respect that, because it's like, wow, we're starting out before I do any mixing. We're starting out with the best case scenario. So, and he's got a guy to watch his back. Like, is the tube functioning properly? Is there buzzing? So I think that's
Amazing.
great. And I think that's something all artists should strive for, not just jump in the booth on whatever mic that was put up for them. And I know, expense comes into it and you can't always do that, but I think that's something people should strive for.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, if I had more money, I'd go for like a 251 probably because that seems to be like 8 out of 10 vocalists. That seems to be the right.
Yeah,
sound.
yeah.
That for my ears,
There's-
what I tend to like. But yeah,
Mhm.
but everyone's it's always worth experimenting and seeing what works best if you have the time and it's not
Yeah.
gonna annoy the artist. I wanted to ask you a little bit. That's a really interesting point. The BTS like making the 7 singers sound like one. I don't know. Walk me through like an example of that if you don't mind.
I almost knocked over my iPad.
Oops.
It's really just by ear. Like, once I get technical, a lot of times with every sound, whether it's vocal or not, I'll listen to the sound and be like, okay, technically this needs to be taken care of before I get to the mixing, artistically. So it's like, okay, this vocal is very boomy, a lot of proximity effect. I need to address this, and I'll go for that first. So once that part is done, any technical stuff like this is really shrill, whatever, then it's just about jumping back and forth. So it's like just like you would check your chorus versus your verse for different aspects, whether it's level or whatever. Then I'll jump between the different singers. So it's like, okay, I really like this guy's sound that I got, and he's finished. He's kind of like the benchmark. Can I make all the other 6 guys sound like this singer? Because I really like how he sounds. Probably fit that one microphone the best, and whatever, like the EQ I got, the de-essing, everything's great. So I'll start by copying all those plugins to everybody, and then I'll just go by changing them. So I'll copy them over. I'll bypass them all. Now I got the singer I like the sound of, and the next singer I'll start unbypassing, see if they fit him, adjust what I think needs to be different, and I'm just going back and forth between singer 1 and singer 2 until they kind of match, and then I'll get them probably 90%, and start getting the other guys. And once I got all the guys there, like all 7 guys, and they're mostly matching, then I'll fine tune it as I do fader rides as well, because that might change something. And once I get the breaths and the S's and the dynamics and everything taken care of, and the levels, and I'll check the rough mix, and where did they have this ad lib? I mean, get that in pocket, and the panning how I think they want it and how I like it, and I'll just keep bouncing back and forth. Like, okay, here's singer number 4 versus singer 1, 1, 4, 4, 1, back and forth until I feel like they match, and then, check it again later. And yeah, so that's kind of my technique, just kind of jumping around. And
it's like an individual channel thing. It's not like you're grouping them and then doing some similar grouping to kind of put them in the same world.
Definitely not. And then, there are so many vocals on those songs. Actually, I mean, most of the K-pop artists I work with, there's just a lot of vocals. Sometimes, 150. So I will get the leads, and then the great thing about BTS is they're so organized with their files. Everything's labeled.
That's exactly what Ken Lewis said.
Yeah, and so I'll take all of there's a rapper in their group named Sugar. So I'll take Sugar and I'll get all his tracks, and I'll copy all those plugins from that lead, that first one, onto every one of his tracks. So now I'm treating all his backgrounds and ad libs and all that stuff just like his lead, as a good starting point. And then once I get all that done, then I'll check and see if that was right. And be like, oh, okay, well, this one doesn't need the de-esser because it's somebody singing oohs and ahs and there's no S's. So get rid of the de-essers. We don't need those, And then this one needs a little bit, more mid-range. Maybe they did something different that day and on when they did this overdub, So yeah, it's just kind of the process. You start with one guy, get him sounding great, and then match everybody else. And all while you're trying to make sure that it's good for the song.
That's right. That's the thing about this. What we do is like, I don't know. I think this is what I figured out is like what makes audio engineering so difficult is like you can make something technically right and better, but then you still have to ask that question: does it fit the song better? Because there's always that artistic like extra thing, and that the combination of like the technical and the artistic decision makes what we do difficult, I think.
And sometimes you can go the wrong direction, and what you thought was good for the song, they don't like. So
right,
you could have this warmth and body, and all their vocals be like, oh, this is a ballad, it needs this, and the vocal needs to have that Michael Bublé proximity and beefiness to it, and I love it, and it's right on top. And they're like, yeah, we kind of want to thin out all the vocals and push them back a little bit. Oh, dang, and it's K-pop. I have a lot of work changing this now, So
right.
Wow. Yeah, sometimes, yeah. I mean, opinions. This whole